Welcome back to the channel, and we're going to look today at a dual lye soap. Now, what is a dual lye soap, I hear you ask, or maybe not. On the screen now, you're going to see two different hydroxides pop up. We're going to be using our normal sodium hydroxide, which is the lye you use for cold process soap. And potassium hydroxide is used for making liquid soaps. And what we're going to do is we can combine both of these, and we're going to make some soap paste. Now, this is not my recipe. This is actually a recipe that you can get from Mrs. Soap and Clay's channel, and I will link her channel down below in the description. So go to her if you want the full recipe for this one. But essentially what we're going to be doing is using both of these to make a lye up with, and then we're going to add it to the oils that are currently melting in the crock pot. And this is technically a hot process recipe. So in this one, we've got sodium hydroxide, and in this one, we've got potassium hydroxide. Now, the interesting thing with potassium hydroxide is it can, and I'm going to use the word can, spit and be quite a noisy and frightening experience on the first time you use it. I say can because this potassium hydroxide called me a liar and didn't do it. So they do spit, and it does get a little bit scary to use it, but it's absolutely fine. Now, when you do a dual lye soap, what you want to try and do is make sure you make the potassium up first, because it does have that potential to spit at you. So this potassium here is going to go in the water first. We're going to add that one, make sure that it's a nice clear solution. Then we will add the sodium hydroxide. So it's exactly the same as making up a normal lye, but in this respect, you're using your potassium hydroxide first and then your sodium hydroxide. Now, how do you work out a recipe for a dual lye soap? Well, a lot of people will use soap calc. And if you are using soap calc, you need to do two recipes. In fact, you need to do three recipes. You need to do one for your potassium hydroxide with all of your oils. Then you need to do one with your sodium hydroxide and all of your oils. And then you need to do one that works out all of the other bits and pieces. Or if, like me, you think, well, do you know what? I want to do this a little bit easier. If you go to soapmakingfriend.com, I think it is, but I'll leave a link in the description below. That soap calculator not only allows you to work in potassium or sodium hydroxides, it'll also give you hybrid soaps, which is what this one is, and it will work out your potassium, your sodium hydroxides, and your water all in one foul swoop. So as you can see here, I'm just adding that potassium hydroxide into the water here, and you can see it wasn't spitting, it wasn't doing anything untoward, it was just not being any fun whatsoever. So I was hoping I was going to get some nice spitting and cackling from it, and it never happened. So there we go. If you want to stop potassium hydroxide spitting at you, film it. So let's look at what temperature we're on at the moment. We're at 58 degrees C. So it's getting hot, and it's getting up to temperature. But what we're now going to do is make sure that's nice and clear. Got a little bit of lye lint on the top of that one, but it's really not an issue. And then what we're going to do is add our sodium hydroxide into this one now. Now, when using our sodium hydroxide in these little pearls, you get quite a lot of stick to them. So I have a little fan brush here that I can just kind of sweep out the rest of the little pearls, because it doesn't create a static. They're natural hair brushes. They don't have any static to them. Really nice little tip there if you just want to get those last little bits of sodium hydroxide out of the bottom of your little pot. And we're going to add in this sodium hydroxide. Now, throughout the video, you're going to see me kind of fast forward a lot of the steps, because essentially all we're doing is waiting for soap to cook in a crock pot. So it's a hot process recipe and not a cold process recipe. And look at that, we've jumped up to 81 degrees C. So the addition of the sodium hydroxide has taken that right up. We're at 182 degrees Fahrenheit. So that temperature has gone right up, but we will be adding this into a hot solution. So by the time the oils have melted into in our crock pot at the top there, this solution, once it goes clear, will be perfectly fine to use. And then we're going to basically be making a soap paste. Now, what is soap paste? Soap paste is basically what it says. It's a paste made with oils and lye. But you can use it in a number of different ways. You can dilute it down and you can create a liquid soap. You can dilute it down. You can add essential oils. You could add a little bit of kind of super fat in there, and you can create a shampoo. But I'm going to use it in another video. And again, thanks to Mrs. Soap and Clay for making a sugar scrub. So it's essentially the same sort of stuff that you could buy from Stevenson's, for quite a lot of money, and you're making it for a quarter, an eighth of the price. It's a very cheap way of making a brilliant sugar scrub. So we've left this just kind of settled in its jug here to cool down a little bit, and I'm just going to give it a little quick stir and make sure that we've got nothing untoward going on. Give it a quick check of the temperature, and you'll see that's gone down to 62 degrees. So we've lost 20 degrees on that one. And what we'll do next is we'll actually start to give the oils in our crock pot a little bit of a stir so we can get those really melted down before we add the lye. So as you can see, we've got some coconut oil in here, which is going to make up the majority of it, and a few other bits and pieces. The full recipe can be found on Mrs. Soap and Clay's channel. It is Soap and Clay is the business, and she's known as Mrs. Soap and Clay, and she is a wonderful soap maker, and she will not sugarcoat it. So if you're looking for somebody to stroke your ego, you're going to the wrong place. But if you want somebody who's going to give you recipes that work and do their job, get over to her channel now, because it is one of the best soap channels on YouTube. Anyway, let's wait for this to melt down, and we'll come back once all the oils are melted, and we can add the lye. And so let's take a look in here again, and you'll see that we've got our oils up to around about kind of 57, 60 degrees, and most of it's melted. If I give it a quick little stir now, you'll see those little bits that are left over are going to have melted right away, and we've got a beautifully pristine, clean oil that we can add our lye into. Now, if you're like me, when it comes to adding lye into oils and seeing that change, I think hot process gives you that visual change so good and so clearly that if you haven't made hot process ever before, I would suggest you go and make some, even if it's some shave soap, or just give it a go, because I find this process fascinating. And when you can get things like these soap paste and stuff like this, it's well worth giving it a go. I pick up crock pots, which are also known in the UK as slow cookers, from charity shops, from places that they've seen a bit of life and basically they want a new lease of life, but they're not good for food anymore. Get them for soaping, because they are brilliant. Anyway, our oils are now at temperature. Now, what I've done there is I've gone from being hot down to low, because we're going to cook this on low, and we're going to bring this to trace and then cook it through saponification and come out the other side with it with this really beautiful paste. So let's not hang around anymore. Let's get this lye solution into our oils, and let's watch this magic happen. Look at that. That always fascinates me. You've seen that lye hit the solution, and it started that reaction. And I think that's why a lot of us find soaping so interesting, is because of things like that. So here we go. There's the lye going in. Let's get everything in there, and let's give this a quick stir with the spatula. And you can see that's just bringing it all together. Now, I'm going to bring in a stick blender here, because we want to get this really going. We want to get it together, and we want to bring this to a nice kind of, it's going to come to kind of a medium trace quite quickly, and then we're going to cook it out. Look at that. That is soap happening straight away. So we're going to give this a quick stir, and we're just going to really get this solution to an emulsion, to an emulsified state, and then we're going to get this cook going. And it's going to take a little while, so there'll be lots of fast forwards and lots of music during this, but bear with it, because it is really worth watching this process happen. So you can see now we've got everything emulsified, and it's going to go quite quickly, which is why we've turned it down onto low, because we want this to cook. Now, again, I'm not going to give you timings, and I'm not going to give you all the exacts for this recipe, because it is not mine. I'm following somebody else's, but this goes to prove that the recipe you pick up from that particular creator is a very good recipe. I would recommend it 100%. and well worth giving it your time to look at. So you can see here, we're just giving it another stick blend, stirring, stick blend, stirring, until we get it to a full emulsion. We're probably around about there, but this is the first time I've made it. I'm probably going to just make sure that it is absolutely emulsified before we start the cook. But the thing with hot process soaps is you're cooking it. You're leaving it in a slow cooker or a crock pot, and you're cooking it and you're forcing it through the gel, through the sonification. And that's why hot process soaps are brilliant. But it looks like we're about done there. So we're now just going to leave this to cook. I'll fast forward the video and we'll come back when we check on it. One of the really important things, and it's really important to note when you are cooking a hot process soap recipe, is crock pots do have a corner right around the bottom of them. They have that edge, and soap can actually sit in there and get stuck into it. So every time you come back and stir this, make sure you are really getting into that corner all around the oval there and making sure you're getting all of the soap out of that little Now we're going to pop the top on here and we're going to cook this now. And I think it cooks for around about 10-15 minutes, something like that. Again, head to the channel that you've already had me mention for full details. But I'm leaving the speed at about 16 times speed here, because I find it quite interesting to watch the surface of the soap as you watch this video. You'll see it start to change colour and it becomes more translucent. You can actually see the soap starting to change its physical appearance and its colour. And I find that quite fascinating, because that gives you a really nice clue as to when it's ready and when to come back and give it a good stir. So let's take a look at it here, and you can see now how this is kind of a completely different texture, and it's a completely different texture to you'd find in a cold process. This is proper hot processing soap, but you can see how that's really kind of like, I think they call it Vaseline stage. I'm sure it's not mashed potato, but that's certainly Vaseline stage to me. Now we whack our stick blender in, and this is just a very cheap stick blender I have. It's not my main stick blender, and I use it specifically for hot process soaps. If this one goes bang, I think it was about £4, and I'm not going to worry about that. Hot process, I think, is quite notorious for taking stick blenders to the grave with them. So don't use your expensive stick blender on this one. Go and buy a very cheap one, because you may well burn it out. And I'd much rather burn out a £4 one than the one that I love making my cold process with. So what we're going to do here is we're just going to kind of give that a really nice stick blend. We're going to pop the lid back on, and it goes in for another cook. And we're just going to keep cooking this and coming back and checking on it every kind of 5 or 10 minutes, I think it was, just to make sure we're getting to the right consistency. And then basically it gets left, and we come back to see what we get in a later stage. So this is the first stir. Give a good old stir up here. We'll pop the lid back on, and then we'll speed through to when we... And let's speed up again here. This is again sped up by 16 times again. So we're going to whack through this one quite quickly. But once again, you can see kind of the temperature still building up in there, and we're still changing the texture of this paste that we've got in here. And this is quite a thick paste, and you do let it down when you do other things with it, or you melt different ingredients into it. So I'll go through and we'll do Mrs. Soap and Clay's sugar scrub, and you'll see exactly how it's used. But coming in here, and I think we're now at that, what they would call a mashed potato stage. You can see it's a bit lighter. It hasn't quite got that kind of Vaseline-y gristliness to it. And at this stage, I thought, do you know what? I think we are good here, and I'm going to trust the process, and I'm just going to leave it. So all I did was pop the lid back onto it. I left it in here, and I actually left it in for quite a while, because I actually just kind of went away and was doing other bits and pieces, and came back to it a couple of days later. And unfortunately, I've lost the videos for those bits and pieces. But what we'll do is we'll just switch over in a second to show you the paste as it is right now. And this was filmed probably about, I don't know, 3 months ago. And I'll show you the paste as it looks now. And then we'll have another video that shows you what we actually do with it. So if you've enjoyed this video, please give it a like. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel. It really helps me grow and allows me to make more videos and tutorials for all of you. When you subscribe, don't forget to click the bell icon if you'd like to get notified when a new video is uploaded. And thanks a lot, Soapsters. I'll see you again next time.